Hello everyone, Jeff here with you for episode number 21 of the Wednesday Night Wrestling Blitz here on YouTube. This is a GMTE Express add-on exclusive, so let's get right into it. Here we begin with AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite first. It took place from the Maverick Center in West Valley City, Utah, in the suburbs of Salt Lake City. Thus, that's why they were saying Salt Lake City, Utah throughout the broadcast. They opened up with a backstage interview that was recorded earlier in the day. Tony Schiavone asked Hangman Adam Page who his tag team partner for the main event would be. Page says it was someone he trusts and has known for a long time. It wasn't either member of the Young Bucks who were there next to him in the interview, so that was Page, I guess, getting one over on them because they apparently still have heat and all that. So we'll find out who that person is here later on. It opened up the show here with Cody Rhodes taking on Ortiz here. Good match here. Good stuff here from these guys. Good action. We saw, of course, Arn Anderson and Brandy out there with Cody. We saw Santana out there in the corner of Ortiz. We saw Lance Archer and Jake the Snake Roberts. So that is Jake the Snake Roberts' new client, Lance Archer. Not a big surprise, but I think it's fine for what it was. They entered the arena shortly after the match began and sat in the front row to watch it. At one point during the match, Archer nearly jumped the railing to get involved, but Jake Roberts got him back, and they ultimately just left. Cody wound up winning the match. He won after winning and tapping out Ortiz to the figure four. Afterwards, Santana attacked Cody, and then Arn Anderson, Matt Jackson, and Kenny Omega, who had run out, was able to run them off. And then we saw Jericho, Jake Hager, and Sammy Guevara up on the big screen. Jericho cut a promo about the upcoming Inner Circle Elite match at Blood and Guts. Jericho then revealed that his group had attacked Nick Jackson, though we never saw the attack, and then trapped him under a door where he was stuck bleeding from his mouth. So eventually Cody, Matt, and Omega ran to the back to help Nick, and then they did a stretcher job here with Nick and took him away by ambulance to a hospital. So that was the big payoff that we got in this situation, so we had that. I believe a lot of people are aware that Nick Jackson and his wife are expecting their third child pretty much at any time, so this was a way to write him off so he can be back with his wife in California. So, it's understandable, and this is why they did the spot here, so that's what we had. Women's tag team action was up next. We had Nyla Rose and Bea Priestley, of course Nyla Rose being the AEW Women's Champion, teaming with Bea Priestley to take on Chris Statlander and Hikaru Shida here. The match, it's decent for what it was. Ultimately, the heels here win. Rose wins for her team after she pins Shida after hitting the Beast Bomb, aka the Power Bomb. After the match, Bea Priestley posed with the AEW Women's World Champion before throwing it to Rose. So maybe they could be setting up something there between those two for a future title opportunity. We'll wait and see. We had Christopher Daniels. He cut a promo in the style of a Dark Order recruitment video here. He cuts a promo basically saying that the Dark Order sucks and that the Exalted One doesn't exist, and then he ultimately challenges Evil Uno and Stu Grayson to singles matches in the future. So we'll see where that goes. So they're really trying to play it up that Christopher Daniels is not the Exalted One. Could he still be the Exalted One? It's possible, but I just don't see why that would make any sense. Six-man tag team action was up next here. We had MJF, the Butcher, and the Blade. Of course, the Bunny was out there. Wardlow was out there for MJF. They took on the Jungle Express. That's Mark Stunt, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus here. The match, it's fine. It's a decent match. Good action overall. Ultimately, the heels win. MJF wins for his team after he tapped out Marco Stunt with the Salt of the Earth. So he gets a big win there. And he pretty much tapped him out almost immediately. So MJF and the Butcher and the Blade and get the big win here in this situation. And it doesn't really hurt the Jurassic Express, because they're pretty much over anyways with the crowd. We had a black and white film by Darby Allin that basically threatened Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara here that aired, so we had that. We had an interview with Britt Baker next. Of course, Tony Schiavone was conducting the interview with her on stage. Basically, she does her usual shtick here by insulting the crowd, which happened to be the crowd here in Salt Lake City. And then she said that she was their role model. Geez, she must have been watching Bayley promos here. Big Swole ultimately comes out to interrupt Britt Baker, and then they basically go back and forth with insults until Britt Baker runs away. So, and they did, without naming them, bring up their significant others, which of course are in wrestling right now, as we know, for the other company. So we had that. More six-man tag team action was on the way here. We had the Death Triangle, that is Pac, Pentagon Jr., and Rey Fenix. They took on Joey Janela and Private Party here, six-man tag team action. The heels actually wind up winning the match here. It's a good match. The heels win. Pac wins for his team after he pinned Joey Janela after hitting the Black Arrow. Then the Death Triangle attacked their opponents after the match, but the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy came out to make the save. So looks like we could be having some more interaction with the Death Triangle and the Best Friends and Cassidy going forward. So because they've already done the Orange Cassidy Pack match, so I could see that 6-man tag team match coming up in the near future as well. In a backstage interview, we saw Dustin Rhodes. He was next. He cuts a promo on the Inner Circle and says he would be Hangman Adam Page's partner whether he liked it or not. So we do have Dustin Rhodes in that main event here. We got a montage of men auditioning to be Shawn Spears' tag team partner that was played here. So, I mean, that's the gimmick for him right now with him and Tully Blanchard. Looking for the perfect tag team partner for Shawn Spears. So, again, we'll see where that goes. It's just kind of an interesting little gimmick they're doing here, I believe. It was announced on next week's show, assuming that they haven't, which we'll talk about here shortly, that the Lucha Bros will be taking on the Best Friends, and we will have an appearance by the Exalted Ones. So we are expected to get the payoff as to who the Exalted One is. It's believed to be Matt Hardy, but again, we'll wait and see. But again, we'll talk about that here shortly. That was announced for next week's program. And then we had an Inner Circle versus Elite 6-man tag that was announced for the week after next. And then also the Rules of the Bloods and Guts match were explained in this situation as well. So we had that. We had a pre-recorded interview with Jon Moxley here. It was conducted by Jim Ross that aired here. Pretty good stuff overall from Moxley. Basically talking about his stuff going on with Jericho and the battles that he had leading up to winning the AEW World title. So pretty good stuff there, I thought. Main event time here was a tag team confrontation. We had Hangman Adam Page and Dustin Rhodes taking on Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara here. It's the match is fine for what it was. It's pretty much what you would expect here. The babyfaces actually get the win to go off the finish here. Hangman Page wins for his team after he pins Sammy Guevara after hitting the buckshot lariat clothesline for the win. Afterwards, we got a big brawl with the Inner Circle and the Elite, and then the Inner Circle wound up standing tall in the end. They almost did the deal where they did the powerbomb spot again off the stage, but it was broken up this time, and then the Inner Circle just left standing tall here this week as they laid out all the baby faces from the Elite. So that was AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite. It took place on the Maverick Center in West Valley City, Utah. Let's talk WWE NXT. It took place from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, instead of Full Sail University in Winter Park because Full Sail was having their Hall of Fame week. That's why they couldn't use the arena this week. So that's why they were at the PC. I thought visually this looked pretty good overall. So they opened up NXT with the North American title match. Here we have Keith Lee, the North American champion, taking on Cameron Grimes here. I thought this was a very good match here. Good storytelling from both guys here. It's a lot of back and forth here for a while. Ultimately, Keith Lee does win in the end to retain after he won after a pounce followed by the Big Bang Catastrophe for the win. After the match, Damian Priest came out and attacked Keith Lee from behind with a police baton or a nightstick, if you will. Dominic Dijakovic did come in to make the save and tried to help up Keith Lee, but Keith Lee, I think, assumed and thought that Dijakovic was the one who did the attack and actually laid him out with a spirit bomb. So a little bit of a heel sighting here from Keith Lee. I actually would not mind Keith Lee being a heel. I don't think they're going to do it just yet, but he showed glimpses of it, and I thought it was actually pretty cool here. So obviously we're going to have another match with Dijakovic and Keith Lee in the future, so that's going to be good stuff coming up. We had a ladder match qualify here for the number one contendership for the NXT Women's title. We had Mia Yim taking on Dakota Kai here. Of course, Raquel Gonzalez was in the corner of Dakota Kai here. Again, it's a good match. I thought it was fine for what it was. I thought maybe it could have been a little bit better, but I thought it overall was fine. At one point, Raquel Gonzalez tries to interfere late in the match. She eventually got caught. That caused a distraction that allowed Dakota Kai to be rolled up by Mia Yim for the pin, and actually the referee didn't turn around in time to see that. However, Mia Yim was able to escape and then hit a code breaker and actually got, I believe, was a surprise win over Dakota Kai here. So Mia Yim advances forward to that ladder match that they're going to have in NXT Tampa Bay, again, if they have that, which we'll talk about when we get there. We had Kushida in action here. A nice opportunity to get to see Kushida. I'm a big fan of this guy. He takes on Raul Mendoza here in singles competition here. It's a good match. Good stuff here from these guys. I thought they told a pretty good story. Kushida ultimately won by submission with an armbar off the top ropes. So Kushida looking strong here. We had Rhea Ripley here at the Performance Center tonight. She came out for a promo, basically talking about how she'll win the NXT Women's title at WrestleMania, and then was interrupted by Charlotte Flair, who was there. So she appears on NXT yet again here this week. Rhea Ripley went right after her, but Charlotte Flair ultimately won the fight and got her heat back and put Rhea Ripley ultimately into the figure four around the ring post there. So Charlotte left standing tall here. So she got her heat back 50-50 because of what they did on Raw recently when Rhea had gotten the shot on Charlotte to knock her down. So Charlotte gets her heat back here. And again, my question is, where is Bianca Belair in all this? She should be involved in all this, just my personal opinion. We had a scene outside in the parking lot. Raul Mendoza, who had lost to Kushida a little earlier, was kidnapped by people in luchador masks, and then they drove off in this SUV. I don't know if it was just me. It was the first thing that crossed my mind when I saw this. This, to me, was nothing more than I thought than the WWE taking a shot at AEW and the Dark Order. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw this, because why else would they just do this randomly? So maybe a spoof of the Dark Order here on NXT. Perhaps. We'll see what happens there. We had another ladder match qualifier here for the number one contendership for the NXT Women's title at NXT Tampa. We had Tegan Nox taking on Deonna Purrazzo here. Again, I guess the match, it was okay. I don't know. It was fine, I think. I don't know. I just maybe expected a little bit more here. Ultimately, Tegan Nox does win. She won after hitting the Shiniest Wizard to advance to that ladder match at TakeOver Tampa Bay. So we have Chelsea Green, we have Mia Yim, and now we have Tegan Nox so far. 3 out of the 6 that have qualified here. NXT Tag Team title match here. We had the Bruiserweights defending the title against the Undisputed Era. This was an outstanding match. Great match here, as I knew it would be. These two teams told a great story. A lot of back and forth here. Ultimately, in the end, we had Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne win and retain after they caught Kyle O'Reilly with the Bro to Sleep and Enziguri combination. So they won and retained in a great match. I would recommend you guys go out and see this match. The Grizzled Young veterans did come out during the match and tried to interfere. But Riddle and Dunn were able to retain and win, so that's what we had there. A great match. Final segment of the night here. Tommaso Ciampa came out to the ring to demand answers from Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano did respond on the video screen from another part of the Performance Center. So we had the chase here where Tommaso Ciampa went to hunt him down, and then he ultimately caught up to him, and they had a big backstage brawl here. This was great. They worked all around the Performance Center here, so for those who have not seen the Performance Center before, the full tour of it, you got a great chance to see it here. Great stuff here. At one point, we saw Johnny Gargano throw Tommaso Ciampa through a window, and then they ultimately attacked each other with workout equipment, so they were in that part of the Performance Center. Then we had a multi-person brawl that spilled back into the arena, and then ultimately we see Johnny Gargano putting Tommaso Ciampa in the Gargano escape on the balcony over the announce table on the big platform that they used there from time to time, and that was a great visual there. But you knew where this was going next. Tommaso Ciampa ultimately wins here in the end, wins at the end of the night here, after he hits the big air raid crash to Gargano off the balcony and through the announce table on the ground as they went off the air. This was a great visual here. This is exactly what they needed to do here. The crowd definitely into it. This was great. This was a great brawl. It didn't overstay its welcome. It told a great story, and it just got you more invested and more fired up for this future match here with Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. So I thought this was a great way for NXT to go off the air. So that was NXT that took place from the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida. Let's go over the numbers for both AEW and NXT. They're in for the week. AEW once again won for the week in viewership. They had 766,000 viewers, while NXT did 697,000 viewers. Both shows were down considerably from last week. AEW ranked 75th for the night in viewership, while NXT ranked 83rd. AEW won in the key demo. They ranked 25th in the 18 to 49 demo, while NXT was 42nd. AEW did a 0.26 in the 18 to 49 demo, and NXT did a 0.21. So both shows, were down. So that's what we had there. AEW, Last week did a 0.35, NXT did a 0.23, so both shows were down. Of course, a lot of this had to do with the talk of the COVID-19, aka the coronavirus. A lot of the president's speech on that, which a lot of people were tuning into on cable and network television. So that's why viewership was down. As far as the overall numbers, AEW won in all the demos except 50 plus, which NXT did win this week for the first time in 3 weeks. But other than that, AEW won in all the other demos. Most of them were relatively close, but again, AEW is just winning with the 18 to 49 male demo. They won 0.35 to 0.26. And again, people 25 to 54 also helped them out, 0.29 to 0.24. So this was AEW's second lowest number. This is their lowest number since they did 663,000 viewers back on the November 27th episode. That was during Survivor Series time for the WWE. For NXT, this was their third lowest viewership. Of course, the October 30th episode did 580,000 viewers, and the January 1st New Year's show did 548,000 viewers. So NXT won again for the week. So through 23 weeks, AEW leads with 19 wins. NXT's 3, and then we had 1 tie. Let's give you my pick of the week. My pick of the week this week, and I think it is pretty clear cut, is NXT. I thought NXT, the visual of the Performance Center, yeah, the crowd was smaller, but I thought this looked great. A visual here. I thought NXT had the better matches here from start to finish. So NXT is my pick of the week. AEW, again, not a whole lot wrong with it. I don't know, it was there, but I don't know. It just felt like something was missing there this week. Not to say that the matches were bad, I just thought NXT came off better here, and especially the closing brawl here on NXT. That was better than what AEW did, I thought. I mean, with AEW, we've been seeing that kind of stuff, but NXT here, this is exactly what they needed, and I thought that was enough to put them over the top here, and I thought their match quality was just a little bit better. So NXT is my pick of the week. So through 21 episodes, I have NXT with 13 picks and AEW with 8 picks. Now, let's talk some news here real quick. We got a moment here. It was reported, according to Wrestling Observer Radio, that Tony Khan had called a backstage meeting prior to Wednesday Night Dynamite being held, in which he announced that the talent and staff have the option of taking next week off, and that nobody would be judged or lose their push if they feel they needed to stay home during the COVID-19 epidemic here, the pandemic, I should say. Now, AEW's Wednesday Night Dynamite next week is supposed to be broadcasting from Rochester, New York at the Blue Cross Arena, but Ticketmaster has already announced that the event has been postponed until July 8th. So, it's also been announced by Governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, that he has banned gatherings of more than 500 people. However, it's being reported by PW Insider is that there will still be a live episode of Dynamite on TNT next Wednesday, but there's no word on where it will take place at or if there will be a live crowd. So they could still hold it there, but they may just wrestle in an empty arena. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Now, the week after that is their Blood and Guts episode, which is supposed to be taking place in Newark, New Jersey. However, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, Roz J. Barakik, I think is how you say his name, is advising against non-essential public gatherings for the next 30 days. So, again, we'll have to wait and see if that's going to happen, or again, if that's going to be in an empty arena. So, just some big news there with AEW. So, apparently, the show next week from Rochester, New York at the Blue Cross Arena has been postponed until July 8th. So, again, we'll wait and see what happens there. Now, it has been confirmed because we did see NXT take place from the Performance Center, but that was because of Full Sail having a prior commitment. It appears, and it's more than likely now, that this week's WWE SmackDown show on Fox and WWE 205 Live on the WWE Network are scheduled to be broadcast from the Performance Center in Orlando as well. It was reported that this Friday's WWE television tapings at the Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan, had been canceled due to the coronavirus pandemic. WWE initially denied the change in a statement, but did confirm they had contingency plans in place. They did, however, an official decision was made to move the taping from Detroit down to Orlando here on this Wednesday afternoon. So, a lot of back and forth discussion apparently. WWE officials at this point are still working out the logistics and plans that are still being worked on. So, now as far as that, now WrestleMania 36, that's a lot of discussion about that. As of this point, WrestleMania 36 will go on as scheduled, at least for the time being. Top WWE officials and local officials met in Tampa here today on Wednesday to discuss the status of WrestleMania 36 in the coronavirus pandemic. Local officials will also discuss the possible cancellation changes to other events in the area. So we have WrestleMania still 3 weeks away, and according to Hillsborough Commissioner Les Miller, quote, he said, "We came to the conclusion at this point we don't want to pull that plug. However, we want to give it at least a week to see what is going to happen. If WWE was going to do anything at all, if they don't at that point, I will suggest that we do come together for an emergency meeting to discuss what we will do at that point in time." Now, it was noted that WWE and local officials in Tampa will reconvene next week as we get closer to WrestleMania 36 from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. WrestleMania 36 week and the non-WWE wrestling events will begin in the area several days before that, of course. Tampa Mayor Jane Castor and city officials did cancel weekend events in the area, including the River O' Green Fest, but did not make the same decision on WWE because they still have a few weeks to go yet. County Attorney Paul Johnston said that any executive order that they issue is for 7 days, so they would have to reissue it twice to postpone or cancel the event. An emergency order at this board institutes only has a life of 7 days, so we're going to have to extend it at least 2 more times between now and WrestleMania, so you'll have time to consider it, he said. So, a lot of moving parts here. Again, let's just talk about what's been going on here. I'm sure a lot of you have heard by now what's been going on. We had the NBA, of course. We have found out now that 2 Utah Jazz players, being Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, have the coronavirus. They tested positive for that. So that's why the NBA game with the Utah Jazz and Oklahoma City Thunder was postponed, and then the NBA has since suspended their NBA season for the time being because of this and because of what happened there as well, which is absolutely the right move, by the way. As of this point now, we know the NHL has followed suit. They have suspended their season for the time being. MLS, we know, has suspended their season for 30 days. We have since learned with the NCAA men's and women's March Madness tournaments, those have been canceled. They have been canceled, I believe. Not postponed, but canceled now, because I know as well that the major conferences had canceled their tournaments here that were going to be taking place this week. The major conferences that would be doing their tournaments right now for the men's and for the women's. So, I mean, this is a very fluid situation. We know Major League Baseball has canceled the rest of spring training and at least the first 2 weeks of the regular season for the time being. They have suspended those activities. As far as NASCAR has announced that their next 2 races will go on a schedule, but there will be no fans in the stands. The PGA Tour has announced that they will be going on as well, but without fans on the course. So, again, they're going to be doing that through, I believe, the early part of April before the Masters. So, again, this is a very fluent situation. And I commend all these leagues for doing this. Now, we've heard nothing as far as the XFL goes. The only thing that we've heard so far this weekend, Los Angeles and Seattle will have a game at CenturyLink Field in Seattle. It has been announced that that game will be played without fans in the stands, but we've not heard anything as of the time I'm recording this about the XFL postponing or suspending their season for the time being as well. We're waiting on that. So, I mean, but again, I think these leagues are doing exactly the right thing. This is exactly what they should be doing. I know some people may be upset with it, a little critical to it, but, I think I understand what they're doing. They'd rather have people be safe than sorry here. I mean, especially the NBA and the NHL, they both play in these same arenas. They share the locker room and facilities in these arenas. So, I mean, I can understand why they would do that here, and I commend them for doing it. I know they're going to probably lose some money in the time being, but they could probably make that up. And as far as the NCAA tournament now, the insurance is going to be into this because apparently most of the NCAA's money making is from this March Madness tournament that they do. A lot of money is made on that, so again, the insurance will be big on that. And of course, their television partners, that being CBS Sports and Turner Sports. Obviously, those are going to be some things there since they've canceled the men's and women's March Madness tournaments. So, very fluent situation. I believe as well, now that I'm seeing that the AHL, the American Hockey League, which is the NHL's minor league, top minor league affiliate or program, I guess you could say, is also suspended for the time being as well. So again, a very fluid situation, and again, I think this is exactly what they should be doing. So again, let's all be safe out there. Let's make sure we're washing our hands. We're using hand sanitizer if you can find it. Use soap. Use foam soap, regular bar soap. Let's wash your hands for 20 to 30 seconds. Let's do everything we can to stay healthy, folks, and we will get through this. But again, this is a very serious situation, and I think all these sports leagues, and now it's involving wrestling with AEW and possibly WWE. This is big stuff, guys, and we need to be paying very close attention to it. So I just wanted to share that with you. Let me know down in the comments section below what your favorite moment from Wednesday's wrestling action was. We'll see you the next time with the next Wednesday Night Wrestling Blitz here on YouTube. Bye for now, everyone.